Greetings fellow crewmates, and welcome to an updated tips and tutorial video for Fate of the Irrbloss. This video is aimed to provide some helpful tips and tricks for both new players and returning. I originally created a video back in May of 2022 for version 1.3. We are currently on version 2.2 where a few things have changed since then. There are timestamps in the description for each of the main sections we'll be discussing. I'm going off my personal experience, so some things mentioned may not work for your playstyle. Fate of the Irrbloss can only be played if you're on PC VR or desktop. Android users will not be able to join this world. The game is designed for cooperation with other players, allowing for a maximum of 5 players per game. This doesn't stop you from playing the game by yourself. The world can also hold a maximum of 10 people, so there can be 5 players and 5 spectators, or maybe 1 player with 9 spectators, if you want to torment yourself like that. Unfortunately, the game is not late joiner friendly. It's perfectly fine if you want to spectate, although some things may be desynced, but you won't be able to join the crew and play. The same with if you crash mid-game and rejoin. You won't be able to continue playing unless you create an entire new instance. Depending on how many players there are, will affect certain additional help you'll get. Solid Enduro runs will give you 2 repair bots, a fire suppression system, and an in-ship teleporter. Trio runs will only give you 1 repair bot. For 4 or 5 player runs, you'll have no additional support. Once all players are ready to go, hit that start game button and move into the next room. This is where you set up your role before boarding the Irrbloss. Each station is dedicated to the player slot you selected. There are 4 roles to choose from. Standard is your generic balanced role with no additional benefits. Repair has the fastest natural repair speeds and the second fastest movement, but has the lowest health. Firefighter takes no fire damage, able to extinguish fires the fastest and has the highest health, however moves the slowest. And Soldier, who has the fastest shooting speed and movement speed, but cannot do well in other roles. When playing with multiple people, it's good to mix around the roles, but there is no true optimal role setup to have. Now, let's go look at the ship. Welcome onto the Irrbloss. There are 9 systems in total to look after, so it's always good to have an understanding of where a system is on the ship. Luckily in each major room there is a live map to guide yourself around, as well as ceiling signs. When arriving on the ship, you'll always spawn in the medbay, which acts as a nice central hub for the rest of the ship. Standing in the medbay, you'll gradually regain health depending on how much active power is on the system. Communications is your in-ship cameras and radio, which allows you to see the maps in each room, as well as let hacking operate the doors terminal. Luckily this system can take 5 hits before it gets destroyed, and when it does, you'll lose all ship pictures and the ability to use the radio until it gets repaired to at least 1 power. You also have the funny nut button in this room. If you have a Patreon member in your team, you can press the funny nut button. Nice! O2 is your oxygen generator. Without this system, you'll gradually lose oxygen throughout the entire ship, slowly leading to suffocation. More power on this system means more oxygen is being generated. Engine is one of 2 systems that will affect your evasion percentage. When this system is damaged, your evasion will decrease by 3%. However, if destroyed, your evasion will become 0% even if the pilot isn't damaged. The teleporter is only used for searching abandoned stations and going to stores. Putting more power into the teleporter will give you more searching time at abandoned stations. If you have the in-ship teleporter subsystem, the teleporter needs to have at least 1 active power before you can use it. Hacking has 2 functions. The left terminal is used for operating the doors and airlocks, whereas the right terminal is used to temporarily disable enemy systems. Shields is protector of the Irrbloss. You have a certain amount of shield slots and shield types you can use to protect the ship from incoming weapon fire. However, not all weapon fire can be blocked. Weapons is used for aiming and firing the Irrbloss's weapons at the enemy ships. Pilot is where you navigate the ship from jump to jump and sector to sector. You are also responsible for dealing with all dialogue prompts. Inventory is where the pilot is able to upgrade the Irrbloss systems, as well as manage the weapons and subsystems used. If you are familiar with one of the 4 main systems and know how to use it, there is quick control buttons in the medbay. This will give ownership of the system to you without the need to go through the tutorial prompts. There are multiple buttons in Irrbloss that you have to interact with. If you're playing in desktop, you can hold down the tab key to bring up your cursor so you can move that around the screen rather than look at each button individually. One last thing to be aware of is that there are kill barriers located around the Irrbloss and inside the store. This is to prevent players from play spacing out of bounds and doing things they shouldn't be doing. Welcome to the pilot system. This is where you'll be navigating the Irrbloss through sectors and jumps, and progressing through dialogue options. You are also responsible for managing your inventory of weapons and subsystems, as well as upgrading the Irrbloss systems. The pilot is also the only player that can make purchases at the store. When you first start a game, you'll be able to choose your destination between 2 sectors from a group of 8 different regions. When you go to a sector, you'll have to go through 8 events before you're given another 2 sectors to choose from. You'll go through 5 sectors and 41 events in a normal playthrough. When navigating through a sector, you'll be dealing with all dialogue options that come from the node you've jumped to. There are multiple different interactions you can encounter, majority of which will lead you to fighting the opposing ship. Some dialogue options will give you a chance to avoid fighting the ship, and sometimes there may be no ship at all, so you'll get free resources or nothing. There are also distress calls that will appear on adjacent nodes to a node you've jumped to. These will be ships requesting fuel, generally being 5. Giving the fuel will reward you with resources and avoid a fight, or you can deny giving the fuel and fight them anyway. Sometimes the distress call can lead you into a trap. Distress calls are good as they almost guarantee a fight if you are looking to gain resources. Another thing that will appear on adjacent nodes are stores. This is where you can spend scrap to repair your ship or purchase new weapons and subsystems. The last thing you might encounter is a station. Stations do not appear on the map unless you have the long-range scanner subsystem. This is where you'll send one of your crewmates to explore an abandoned region to collect resources. Ideally, you'd want to send a soldier class crewmate as they move the fastest and can defend themselves more easily. All jumps, other than the station and store, have a chance to have an environmental event active. There are 3 types of environmental events. Sun, where occasionally a fire will spawn on your ship in a random location. Nebula, where shield buffers do not regenerate for you or the enemy ship. And Pulsar, where the radio and map for the Irrbloss no longer work. All 3 are easier to manage, but it just adds an additional layer of things to worry about. When it comes to suns though, it's a good idea to get through the interaction and fight fast to jump away, as fires do cause a lot of damage if left unattended. Having the long-range scanner subsystem will also show which nodes have environmental events. To move from one node to another, you need to double click on the adjacent node to the one you're on to move over there. If you only click once, you can see what adjacent nodes are attached to that node. You can use this to plan out your route if you want to end at a store or get around to a certain area. During the times where you are fighting the opposing ship, there's a couple things you as the pilot can do. On the main terminal, there's a button to use the afterburner. This will use 1 fuel every time you use it, and will present you with a small minigame. The aim is to click the 2 circles when they overlap. Do this enough for the green ring to reach the outside to complete one of them. Depending on how many you complete, will determine how much additional evasion will be added to your ship. If failing all 3, you'll lose 5% evasion, but for each successful one, you'll gain 5% evasion. This will last for 30 seconds, however if you start another afterburner, it will remove the current evasion addition, which is handy if you failed to get any last time. The other thing you can do is use the fuel to escape a combat. Once the void drive is fully loaded, you are able to jump to an adjacent node to escape the current fight. This is good to use if you are in a losing fight, but doing this will not give you any resources. Both the pilot and the engine do need to have at least 1 active power for this to work. And above all else, keep the pilot system repaired, as this gives the Irrbloss the ability to evade. If either pilot or engine is fully destroyed, you'll have 0% evasion and will prevent the void drive from charging, making it impossible to jump away if in danger. Since your pilot is linked to your evasion percentage, upgrading the system will increase your evasion by 3% per upgrade. You can also do this with the engine system, to get up to a maximum of 33%. There is also one possible encounter that will occur where you come across a dark or a void ship which speaks in an unknown language. This is a 50-50 chance interaction, where if you succeed, both your pilot and engine will be upgraded by 1 point for free, but if failed you go into a combat. Each time you jump to a node, you'll use 1 fuel. Sometimes after an interaction, you won't be given additional fuel and you may run out. At this point, you'll need to wait using the button next to the nav map, and a new encounter will appear. Turning on the distress beacon will give you a slight chance to have one of the people that help make the world sell some fuel to you, although at a slightly higher price. Otherwise, a random ship will appear that you have to fight and win to get fuel from. One key thing to note is that the ship you encounter will be one level higher than the sector you are currently in, so this fight will be slightly harder. After you are done with interactions, you'll get a display of all the scrap, missiles, viruses, fuel, and maybe even a weapon or subsystem you got. Once you've stockpiled enough scrap, you can make your purchases at stores and also use the inventory to move weapons and subsystems around to suit your playstyle. You can also upgrade the Irrbloss to better survive. This is the shield system. We will be in charge of protecting the Irrbloss from incoming weapon fire. You'll always start with one shield slot and can be upgraded to have 4. Each shield slot contains 3 shields: thermal, kinetic, and electromagnetic. At the top is the number of buffers you can use to recharge a shield type. This will automatically regenerate every 3 seconds. If you're running low on buffers, you can cycle active shields to regain buffers to put somewhere else. To recharge a shield type, you just need to select the button underneath the shield type you want to recharge. There is a delay between pushing the button and the shield becoming active again. Depending on the difficulty you are playing will determine how fast the shield type will recharge. On easy, it takes 0.3 seconds, normal is 0.53 seconds, and hard is 0.7 seconds. If you learn the delays, you can use this to time recharges against multi-shot weapons to block up multiple shots with a single shield slot. Do note that recharging an active shield will still use up a shield buffer, so don't go wasting all your buffers on random presses or misclicks. If the shield system takes damage, you will lose the ability to hold buffers, and also in taking damage, you will lose the first buffer in your charge set. The only time you will not regain shield buffers is if you are in the Nebula environmental event. When this happens, you have to be careful with what you recharge, as you won't get them back until you get to a jump without a Nebula. The 3 types of shields are used to counter the different weapon types the opposing ships will use. Thermal shields will block against all thermal-based weapons, such as rail beams, burst lasers, auto lasers, doublers, thermal heavy lasers, and thermal flaks. If these shots get through, there's a chance a fire will ignite on the Irrbloss. Kinetic shields will block the weapon's hull rail beam, piercer, kinetic heavy laser, and kinetic flaks. If these hit the Irrbloss, there's a chance that a breach will appear somewhere. Electromagnetic shields will block damage from shockers and heavy EM lasers. When hit by an EM based weapon, a set of all 3 shield types will be removed. And when an EM weapon hits the Irrbloss, it will cause widespread damage to systems. Other weapons such as missile launchers, cannons, catalyzers, and bomb launchers will ignore shields and hit the ship directly. There is nothing you can do about this except pray your evasion is good enough for it to miss. Bomb launchers will cause serious damage to systems and crewmates, but no hull damage will be taken. The last type is beam weapons, such as the pike beams and hull beam. In order to block this, you need to have at least one of each shield type active, otherwise the beam will pierce and damage the ship. There's also the shield breaker weapon, which instead of damaging the ship or active shields, it will remove half of your active shield buffers. A little something for flaks, there is no visual difference between their types until it fires. As seen in this picture, the glowing particles indicate a thermal flak, whereas the darker particles are kinetic. Looking at the weapons console can help identify what flak type is being used. There is also an auto system that can be enabled. This will automatically regenerate shields when they are taken down. This will only do this when the shield buffers are maxed out, so this doesn't work when you're in nebulas. This is a semi-decent system if you need to move away from the shields to do something else. There are 20 different weapons that the enemy ships can use against you, with a few of them having a couple variants. As you progress through the sectors, the weapons have a chance at being at a higher tier, meaning you'll have to defend against more shots. The rate of fire for multi-shot weapons will become faster if you play on harder difficulties, but the charge time stays the same. However, if playing on easy, when a weapon system is damaged, the charge time will reset back to 0. But for normal and hard, the weapon charge time is only paused, and will resume from where it is at after it gets repaired. We'll go through the weapon to give an understanding of what to expect. First up, we have the auto laser and upgraded auto laser. These are single shot thermal based weapons and have the fastest charge time of all weapons. The upgraded auto laser fires roughly twice as fast than the regular auto laser, and can be differentiated by the purple outer colouring rather than being fully red. A single shield slot can be easily used to block this weapon, even when on auto if no other weapons are present. This is the burst laser, which is a thermal multi-shot weapon. The rate of fire is fairly slow and can be blocked with a single shield slot. In Sector 1, you'll generally encounter a 2-shot burst laser, with a very rare chance of it firing 3. Sector 2 and 3 will be either 2 or 3 shots, with a rare chance of it being 4. Sector 4 and 5 will be any 2 to 4 shot burst laser. When fighting the final bosses, burst lasers will be either 5 or 6 shots. The oddly coloured green weapon is the D's Nuts, Doubler, which is another thermal multi-shot weapon. The special function with this weapon is that it has a chance to fire additional shots per volley. In all sectors, the doubler can fire 2 to 4 shots, with a chance from Sector 3 onwards being able to fire a volley of 3 to 6. This here is the thermal heavy laser. The orange colouring can be used to identify this heavy laser as thermal based. Sector 1 will always be a single shot, making it super easy to defend against. From Sector 2 onwards, there is a chance this weapon will fire 2 shots. If the final bosses have this weapon, they will always fire 3 shots. The kinetic heavy laser, coloured in purple, follows the same principle. The third type is the electromagnetic heavy laser, coloured bright in teal. The only difference with this is that it can fire only a maximum of 2 shots. Now this annoying weapon is the thermal rail beam, the fastest thermal multi-shot weapon, coloured nice and red. Unless you have the charge time and recharge delay nailed down, you won't be able to block this with a single shield slot. In Sector 1, it will always fire 2 shots. Sectors 2 and 3 will be a chance of shooting 3 times. Sector 4 and 5 will have a chance of being 4 shots. When fighting bosses, it will be either a 4 to 6 shot weapon. The hull rail beam follows the same principle and can be identified with the blue colouring. This purple coloured weapon is the Piercer, a slow firing kinetic multi-shot. You are able to block Piercer's shots with a single shield slot if you time a recharge correctly. In Sector 1, the Piercer will fire 2 times. From Sector 2, it has a chance of firing 3 times. And from Sector 4, it has a chance to shoot 4 times. The blue short looking weapon is the Shocker. This is an electromagnetic based weapon, so when it hits the Irrbloss, an entire shield slot is taken down. This will either be a single shot or double shot, with the double shots appearing from Sector 2 onwards. Next are the 3 damaging beam weapons, the Pike Mark 1, being dull orange, Pike Mark 2, which is bright orange, and the Hull Beam, coloured purple. To block these weapons, you need to have at a minimum 1 of each shield type active, otherwise you will take damage. The 4th beam weapon is the Shield Breaker, and is nice teal colour. This does not cause any damage to the Irrbloss, but will cause half of your max buffers to disappear. This is a deadly weapon if you are up against other multi-shot weapons, as you won't have all the buffers you normally would. This tube-based weapon is the Flat Cannon. This will fire either kinetic or thermal. You won't know which one is which until it fires. The bright particles are thermal and the dull particles are kinetic. All flaks will pick a number between 1 and 6 and deal that amount of damage to the Irrbloss. This does mean some hits will destroy all your shields and damage you as well, which is unavoidable. The last weapons are missile-based weapons, which sadly you can't defend against with shields. There are missile launchers, cannons, catalyzers, and bomb launchers. You just have to hope that the Irrbloss's evasion rolled good enough for the missile to miss. There are 2 subsystems that can be obtained that will benefit the shield system. This is the Shield Booster, which will reduce the time for shield buffer regeneration from 3 seconds down to 2, making it a lot easier for the auto system or to get more buffers quickly. The other subsystem is the EM Defender, which has a 50% chance to prevent any EM shots affecting the shields. Welcome to Weapons, where you'll be in charge of murdering those who no longer have a daily subscription to Life magazine. The terminal you'll be using does have a lot of things to look at, but once you play around with it for a bit, you'll easily understand what's important. When you first start off a game, you'll be given a choice of 5 different weapon presets using a total of 3 weapon power over 2 weapon slots. The doubler preset does only give 1 weapon, but you still have access to that second weapon slot. This choice is made by the pilot, so tell them what you would like. I always find the basic Railbeam and Pike Mark 1 are a great starting choice, but everyone has their own preference. As you progress through the sectors, you may receive new weapons from winning battles or purchasing them from stores. The starting weapons are good, but you'll most likely not be able to win with them alone. You are also able to upgrade the number of weapon slots, allowing you to fire up to 4 weapons. Just remember that you will also need to upgrade your weapon power in order to power each weapon you have. It is possible to turn off and on certain weapons to direct the amount of power being used to something more preferable during a fight, until you have enough power to keep all weapons online. You can see how much power is being used by a weapon by seeing the blue indicators to the left of the weapon, or having the pilot read the weapon card in the inventory. In inventory and weapons, there are purple markers marked every 5 power, making it easier to count how much you have. When the weapon system is damaged, you'll start to lose weapon power. If the damage gets into the active power being used by your weapons, the furthest right weapon will turn off, sustain even more damage, and the rest of the weapons moving left will deactivate one by one. Because of this function, it's a good idea to have your strongest weapons located in the first couple of weapon slots, so they are protected for a bit of time if the system is damaged. Low powered or fast firing weapons are good to have in slots 3 and 4 due to them being easily brought back online. And depending on the weapons you have, it's always good to have an extra 1 or 2 weapon power than what is being used. This means that all weapons will still be active even after taking some damage. When turning on and off weapons, try not to do this when someone is moving the weapons around in inventory. This may cause some power to be consumed even though no weapon is active. The top half of the weapons terminal is all about the enemy ship you are battling. You're able to see how much health the ship has, how many shields are protecting it, the ability to target and see the health of the respective systems, the repair speed of each system, and also all of the weapon types that is being used. You can also see the enemy ship's evasion percentage as well, which indicates the percentage chance that a shot will not hit the target. 0% means a guaranteed hit. The weapons you'll use have the ability to use a combination of 4 different damaging effects when hitting an enemy ship. Almost all weapons are able to cause damage to the hull, which is needed in order to destroy them. A few weapons have the ability to do critical damage, which is chance, which feels like about 25%, for each shot to deal additional hull damage. In the description of some weapons, it will mention it will reduce the repair speed, meaning it will make the targeted system take longer to repair after being damaged. This leads into the 4th type, which is system damage. When a system is targeted and shot with that weapon, the health of that system will decrease, making it less effective or inoperable. Each system being damaged or destroyed will affect the ship in different ways. For weapons, damaging will progressively disable the enemy weapon systems one by one. Pilot and engine correlates to its evasion, and if either of these are fully destroyed, then the enemy ship's evasion will be 0%. For shields, it will prevent additional shields being recharged. And lastly is teleporter, where at least 1 damage done to this system will prevent the enemy from teleporting intruders into the Irrbloss. In total, there is 44 unique weapons that can be used, 6 of which are special faction weapons that are harder to obtain. Everyone has their own preference and recommendations to what weapon to use, as seen by these tier lists. We'll cover over each of the weapon types and how they are used in fights. Each weapon has their own charge time, damage dealt to system as a whole, and how much power it uses. On the weapons terminal, you can click the info button below a weapon to check these stats. You can also check these by having the pilot grab the weapon in inventory, or before you make the purchase in a store. First are the shocker weapons. These are electromagnetic based weapons that will cause decent system damage when it hits. However, this is the only weapon type that does not cause any damage to the ship's hull. The regular shocker fires once, and the double shocker fires twice. The crank shocker is a faster version of the regular shocker, but you can only get this weapon through the starting preset weapons list. Next are the beam weapons. There are 3 different versions of the beam weapons. The Pike and Pike Mark II are able to deal decent damage to the hull and system, making it great for disabling systems. The hull beam does not cause system damage, but has a chance of dealing additional critical damage, while also reducing the repair speed of a hit system. The last beam weapon is a shield breaker. This weapon does not cause damage to a system or the hull, but instead removes all active shield charges from the enemy. The good thing about beam weapons is they will always hit the target, but you need to make sure the enemy has no active shields, otherwise no damage will be dealt. There are 2 variants of the rail beam, thermal and hull. Mark I fires 2 shots, and the Mark II fires 4. The hull rail beam is able to reduce the repair speed of the hit system, whereas the thermal rail beam is able to cause system damage. The basic rail beam is a one-shot variant of the thermal rail beam. An additional bonus from the thermal rail beams is the ability to pierce through shields, causing damage to the targeted system even when there are active shields. The basic laser and burst lasers act in the same way as the basic and thermal rail beams. The only difference is that these weapons do not have the ability to pierce through shields. There is also the doubler and extra doubler that have the same style as the burst lasers. The only difference is that these two weapons have a chance to fire an additional shot each shot. This means the doubler can fire 2 to 4 shots per volley, and the extra doubler can fire 3 to 6. Just depends on how lucky you are. And we can also mention about the two auto lasers. These two are the fastest firing weapons in the game, shooting a single shot quite rapidly, causing system damage. The downside to the auto lasers is the inability to target a specific system. These shots will hit something randomly, which may or may not be helpful. We also have the piercers, which act in a similar way to the hull rail beams, except they have the ability to cause additional hull damage from critical hits. The heavy laser has 3 variants: heated, hull, and electromagnetic. The heated heavy lasers are able to cause decent system damage to the target, whereas the hull heavy lasers will reduce the repair speed substantially with additional hull damage and critical hit chances. The electromagnetic heavy laser is a balance between the other two, with good system damage and hull damage. A weapon you don't need to think too much about is the flak cannons. There are 2 types, the regular and superheated. Superheated flaks have increased system damage compared to the regular flaks. You are unable to target a specific system, but instead the flak will hit multiple systems with random damage, or be able to remove all 4 shields if they are active. The only downside to flak cannons is that it uses 4 scrap in order to fire. The last weapon types are missile based. There's a few variants, but they all work similarly. Catalyzers and missile launchers deal the most damage to the hull, with some system damage as well. The system missile is focused more on system damage rather than hull damage. Cannons are weaker, but far the fastest. And lastly are the bomb launchers. These cause considerable system damage and reduces repair speed, with the upgraded bomb launcher being able to cause all damaging effects. The homing missile launcher and bomb launchers will always hit the ship, whereas the others have a chance to miss. The benefit with missile weapons is they will always ignore shields, so can always cause direct damage. One thing to be aware of is you do need missile resources in order to fire missile weapons. Now on to the 6 faction weapons. These weapons all use 7 power to operate and are enhanced versions of a certain weapon type, generally able to deal a lot of damage. In the Balfagor's Cradle sector, you can find the Balfagor's Flak Cannon. This special flak cannon will not use scrap when firing, making it very cost effective compared to the other flak cannons. It still targets random systems and can sometimes hit for really low damage. To get this weapon, you need to find a distress signal where a ship is requesting for 7 fuel. Give the 7 fuel at the first chance and you'll have the 50-50 chance of getting the weapon, otherwise you'll get no reward. The dialogue does mention about good fortune, and comparisons to resources awarded and shop prices do make it seem like a hidden luck stat has improved, but more research is needed to determine that. In the Alliance sector is the Barrack Gavel. This heavy laser deals large amounts of damage and is the only heavy laser weapon that fires 3 shots. In order to get this, you must complete the first Connie boss fight at the start of Sector 3, making it impossible to get the weapon in Sectors 1 and 2, but 100% possible for Sectors 3, 4 and 5. This comes from a random ship interaction that you can't miss if you find them. Over in the Aether space will be the Aether's Reloader. This is a type of burst laser that does only fire once, but as the battle progresses, the recharge time between shots will be reduced until it becomes like a machine gun. Excellent for keeping a system down or breaking through shields. If you are fighting a boss that has recharge phases in its fights, the charge time for the Aether's Reloader will reset, and you'll have to wait for the shots to speed back up again. In the Aether space, you'll come across a ship talking about the Gilded Cage and recording you have. Let them know about what your recording said, and you'll have a 50-50 chance of getting the weapon, otherwise you'll be going into a fight with them. Inside the Nautilus cluster, you are able to get the Swarm. This is a type of auto laser that shoots 8 times randomly at any system, great for taking down shields or sporadic damage. To get this, you come to a ship blurting about being one with the mind. This is a 50-50 chance they'll give the weapon, or you'll get into a fight. The Cannon of the Reavers can be found in the Chrome's Hunt Nexus. This is a rather special type of missile launcher that when fired will use 1 missile and 1 virus. Both are needed to fire a shot. When this hits a system, this will cause a large amount of system damage, along with a great amount of hull damage. Since this is a missile-based weapon, it will ignore shields. To obtain this weapon, you'll come across a chance encounter of a Chromecraft who appears to be breaking away from the hive mind. This is a pure 50-50 chance to get the weapon, or you'll be going into a fight. The last special weapon is the Void's Choir, found in the Void sector. This is a beam weapon that will cause considerable system damage, but the amount of hull damage can vary from low to high, so you're really testing your luck with this. The good thing with this weapon is since it is a beam weapon, it won't miss, but all shields need to be offline for it to cause damage. You can get this weapon by finding a VRChat talking about a sermon. There's likely a 50-50 chance for either yes or no to work, but us as a community have found better luck saying no to get the weapon, otherwise you'll just have another fight. In both the Abandoned Sector and the Outer Regions, there is no faction weapon to be found. If you have weapons that damage over time or has multiple shots, you can actually change the target of each shot. This is good if you want to damage multiple systems of the enemy ship. There are a few subsystems that benefit the weapon system, which will definitely make it easier to progress through sectors. Pre-Igniter is a very strong subsystem, as will set all active weapons to be ready to fire as soon as combat starts, meaning you kill earlier and faster. Weapon Reloader will reduce the charge times by 13%, giving a slight boost to weapon firing. Tracker Lens makes it less likely for your shots to miss by reducing the evasion of the enemy ship by half. And Missile Replicator, which gives a 40% chance for missile-based weapons to not use a missile resource when firing. This is the hacking system, where you have the power to control two terminals of fun. The left terminal is used for the doors and airlocks. You can open and close doors and quickly repair broken doors indicated by the red icons. You can open the airlocks, which will remove all O2 in that room. Opening adjacent doors will slowly remove O2 from those rooms as well. This is handy because once the O2 levels get below 25%, fires cannot live. Having the airlocks closed and low O2 room doors open will allow you to equalize the O2 levels between those rooms. This is great if you are needing to repair breaches, as O2 will flow between them, allowing you to not take suffocation damage. One thing to note is that communications needs to have at least one active power in order for the system to be used, otherwise all interaction is lost until it is repaired. You cannot use this system when you're in a pulsar environmental event. The right terminal is used for hacking. If you're successful with this, you'll be able to temporarily disable an enemy system for a short period of time. This can be the pilot, engine, shields, or weapons. You'll be given a 12x8 grid of nodes, starting in a random position, with 4 green orbs appearing before slowly fading away. The position of the green orbs indicate the general area where the systems are located to be hacked. You'll need to get from your starting position to a hackable system, destroy that system with your virus in order to succeed, while navigating through a flurry of roadblocks. You will always have 10 seconds to attack a node, with the timer resetting back to 10 afterwards. If you let the timer run out, you will fail the hack and one of your own ship's systems will be hacked. Time isn't the only thing to worry about. Your virus also has its own strength and health. In VR, it is on your hand, and for desktop, it's at the top of the terminal. You can see 2 values representing the health and strength of your current virus. When navigating through the hack chart, the roadblocks will also have their own respective health and strength. When attacking an unknown node, you will not lose any health, even if a roadblock is discovered. If you attack a roadblock, both its and your virus's health will go down depending on each respective strength. If your attack destroys the roadblock, the node will be cleared, and you also won't lose health from that attack. However, if your attack will cause your virus to die due to that roadblock, you will have lost the virus and one of your own systems will be hacked. Your own hacked systems will cause either weapons to lose all their current weapon charge times, shields to lose all their shield buffers, or reset the void drive for the pilot. There are 5 different roadblocks you'll encounter, with 3 of those 5 having an additional effect on something. There are 2 types of firewalls, each with their own health and strength, and nothing else fancy. There is a malware which will appear from Sector 1, which is generally weaker but will cause your virus's attack powers to be reduced, making it harder to destroy other nodes. Next is the time bug, which will appear from Sector 2. This is harder to kill than the malware, but will also reduce the amount of action time, making it easier to run out of time. From Sector 3, we'll reveal the Thorn roadblock, which is honestly the worst thing to have present. Every time you do an action with a Thorn present, even attacking or destroying a Thorn, will cause all active roadblocks to increase in health and strength. On the left side of the terminal is power-ups you can use. Freeze will prevent the additional effects of roadblocks from occurring for 3 turns, which is very handy in removing malwares, thorns, and time bombs from interfering with your virus. Divider is excellent if you have multiple roadblocks present, as it will reduce their remaining health by half. 2x attack is what it says in the name, makes your virus attack for double the amount it has for a single attack. And shield, which will allow your virus to not take any damage from the next roadblock you attack. Throughout the VRChat, you'll also be able to find power-ups for your virus. From Sector 1 you can find shields and 2x attack. Sector 2 will allow you to find additional dividers, and from Sector 3 will allow you to get additional freeze power-ups. There are 2 additional power-ups that can be found. One is an energy recharge to give your virus more health, and the other is a strength boost, which gives your virus 10 more strength. These boosts do reset, and you'll always start with one of each power-up after each hack attempt. When upgrading your virus system, you'll get additional health and strength, making it easier to hack in later sectors. However, your virus naturally starts as a level 2 virus, making it effective for Sector 2 enemies from the start. You won't get any additional health and strength until it reaches level 3 and higher. Upgrading is important because as you progress through the sectors, the health and strength of the roadblocks also increase, making it much harder to hack. There is only one subsystem that is beneficial to the hacking system, and this is the virus firewall. This will prevent your own systems from getting hacked, means you can waste all those viruses without a care in the world. One thing you can do is go to the Glynplane 4 world and practice your hacking skills at the playtest terminal here. This is much easier than doing countless runs of Irrbloss, and also goes through each upgrade level as you complete your hacks. Since the Irrbloss is a bunch of scrap put together, it doesn't have really good systems. However, as you progress through sectors, you'll get scrap that can be used to make some upgrades. The cost to upgrade your system does increase after each upgrade, making the most strongest the most expensive cumulative. Sometimes you might not even be able to upgrade anything fully, so it's good to prioritize upgrading certain systems to increase your survival chances as you progress. Your first 2 systems are weapons and shields. These are the only systems that have 2 upgrades to them. The power upgrade will give you the ability to use more power-hungry weapons, and the buffer upgrade will give you more shield buffers to use, allowing you to not rely on regenerating buffers as much. The slots indicates how many active weapons or shields can be used. Pilot and engine work hand in hand with each other. These 2 systems correlate to the amount of evasion percentage the Irrbloss has. It is very important to have both of these systems operational, because if either of them are fully destroyed, your evasion will drop to 0%. Teleporter has 2 uses, the ability to teleport through the ship with the in-ship teleporter, and how much time you have to explore abandoned stations. The hacker system will upgrade the virus's strength and health. This is needed as hacks in later sectors are harder. Do note that the virus used starts at level 2, so 2 upgraders are needed before a boost is seen. The last 2 are O2 and Medbay. These systems increases the amount of O2 generated in each room and how much health you recover in the medbay. It's always a good idea to have at least 2 levels of medbay, as the healing rate is a massive benefit. I always aim to have a 3rd weapon active when entering Sector 2, with possibly a 2nd shield slot. When battling Connie at the start of Sector 3, I will have 3 active weapons, 2 or 3 shield slots, and possibly a couple additional points into engine and pilot. For the Connie bomb in Sector 4, having a level 2 medbay helps so much more when dealing with that crisis. For the rest of Sector 4 and Sector 5, I'm trying to get all 4 shields and 4 weapons running, then putting the remainder into buffers and evasion. There are 17 subsystems that are present in the game. Of those 17, you can only have 3 active, and you cannot change these out when in combat. The hull repair arm will regain 2 hull points at the cost of reduced scrap at the end of every combat or loot event. The fire suppression system can only be purchased when playing with 3 or more players, and is automatically installed for 1 or 2 players. When a major system gets damaged due to fire, the system will activate and extinguish the fire in that room. The in-ship teleporter can also only be purchased when playing with 3 or more players, and is automatically installed for 1 or 2. This allows players to quickly teleport between pilot, weapons, shields, and hacking, but only if the teleporter has at least 1 active power. The long-range scanner will reveal all stores, stations, and environmental threats on the navigation chart. Medbay nanobots will allow players to heal in any system room, but at a very reduced rate compared to the medbay. The micro repair bots will automatically repair after a short amount of time any new breaches that spawn on the ship. The missile replicator gives a 40% chance for missile-based weapons to not consume a missile resource. Electromagnetic Defender will give shields a 50% chance to negate the effects of electromagnetic weapons. The Particle Scrambler will prevent intruders from boarding the Irrbloss when the enemy ship has an active teleporter. At the start of every new combat, the Preigniter will allow all online weapons to start fully charged. Reloader will give all weapons a 13% reduction in charge times. Repair Robots gives the Irrbloss 2 automated repair robots that will fix systems on their own. Salvager will increase the amount of scrap gained by 15 to 25%. Shield Booster decreases the charge time for shield buffers to recharge from 3 seconds to 2 seconds. The Tracker Lens will decrease the enemy's ship evasion by 50%. If failing a hack, the Virus Firewall will prevent any system from being hacked. And the best subsystem of all, the Mirror, which adds a mirror in the pilot room. The mirror also gives a 5% chance to reflect any damage back to the enemy ship. Here, we will go through the general layout of the Irrbloss game, what to expect, and some recommendations that I personally follow. After all main systems have been taken, the pilot will be able to select the difficulty and weapon loadout. If you select the weapon loadout immediately, the game will default to normal difficulty. To change the difficulty, you can select it from the terminal to the left. Each difficulty comes with slightly different game mechanics. Easy gives the most resources, has the quickest shield recharge, enemies multi-shot weapons fire the slowest, and damaging enemy weapons will reset their charge times. The harder difficulties will give less resources, slow down shield recharges, speed up enemy multi-shot weapons, and damaging weapons won't reset charge times. Selecting one of these difficulties will also reveal 6 challenges that can be added to increase your final score. If you select a challenge, this will be enabled permanently, so accidental clicks will be stuck on, or you need to create a new instance. The challenges are Hull Tank, which means you can't repair at stores, but the hull repair arm and chance encounters for repairs still work. Flying Blind will disable the camera and radio, imitating a pulsar or broken communication system. This also means you can't use the door and airlock terminal when hacking. Reloader makes the enemy weapon charge time slightly faster, similar to your own Reloader subsystem. Fragile is a risky challenge as it reduces the Irrbloss's max health from 30 down to 15, and you can't regain more than 15. Limited resources will heavily reduce the amount of scrap received by about 75%. And Low Stats, which will remove any selected role players have picked and put all 3 skills down to 0, making every action super slow. Our 7th selection is God Mode, which gives you 9,000 of each resource and the ability to insta-kill enemies and spawn shops. This is great for memes or testing game mechanics. When you're all ready to go, you'll be given 2 sectors to randomly jump to. You'll be going to 5 sectors in total and never go to the same sector twice. In each sector, you'll be interacting with 8 jumps, which range from combats, looting, empty nodes, stores, stations, and distresses. All sectors generally have 2 stores, a couple distresses, and a station. Belfager's Cradle is the only sector that has 3 stores. Both the Outer Regions and Abandoned Sector have only 1 store. The Abandoned Sector is also more commonly going to have empty nodes. Ideally, you want to avoid Outer Regions and Abandoned Sector, but sometimes you are forced to go to one of them. Stores are used to purchase weapons, subsystems, resources, and repairs with the scrap you've collected. Just please don't shoot the shopkeeper. Also in all sectors, a random number of nodes will become an environmental event. So sometimes you'll have to deal with suns, pulsars, or nebulas on encounters. But you won't have to deal with these ever when visiting stores or stations. When dealing with combats and some other events, you'll most likely take some kind of damage somewhere. Any kind of hit to the Irrbloss will cause hull damage and damages the system. Depending on the weapon, you may take more than 1 hull damage, or more than 1 system will be damaged. Kinetic-based weapons have a chance of causing breaches, which will rapidly drain the O2 in the room the breach is in. Any player in this room will slowly start to suffocate and lose health. To remove a breach, you just need to use your repair tool on that breach. Thermal-based weapons have a chance of causing fires, which can damage systems if left unattended, which will also cause more hull damage. Any player in a room with a fire will also lose health. You can use your fire extinguisher to extinguish fires. Something you can do with fires is stand in an adjacent room and extinguish from there if you can reach, making you safe from any fire damage. You need to hear the audible hissing sound from the fire extinguisher to know that you are fighting the fire. The last kind of damage that can occur is when the enemy ship has a teleporter and sends intruders onto your ship. These intruders will randomly attack systems and destroy them, which also causes hull damage if successful. When you shoot an intruder with your pistol, they'll change focus to attack that player. Intruders have the ability to freeze a player for 6 seconds, making them annoying to deal with. They take 10 shots in total to kill, with fires and suffocation having no effect on them. 1 to 3 intruders will always spawn if given the chance. Stations are a one-person event where you explore a dark area looking for resources. You will need to use your pistol with the flashlight to see where you're going and to protect yourself from intruders. There are 4 terminals you can find: scrap, missile, fuel, and an item. Missiles and fuel take 5 seconds to claim, scrap is 7 seconds, while the item takes 12 seconds. The item will be a random weapon or subsystem. The position and number of terminals are random each time a station is generated. When progressing through all the sectors, there are 3 preset events that will always occur. At the start of Sector 3, you will come across Connie in a boss fight. He will always have 4 weapons, 2 shields, and 20 to 30 health. The next event is Connie Bomb, which occurs at the start of Sector 4. There is no combat here, but instead a bomb will explode on your ship, causing multiple breaches and fires while also fully destroying the communications system. A good way to pass this area is to drain all O2 in all rooms except hacking, medbay, and communications, and have everyone in each of these rooms prior to the bomb exploding. This will extinguish all fires while letting the person in communications to repair the system to allow hacking to operate airlocks and doors again. Then you can slowly repair all breaches and recover health. If you have repair robots, you don't need a person in communications. The last event is the final store into the final boss fights. The last jump of Sector 5 will always be a store no matter what node you jump to. And then, when you're finished, you'll go to the Vowing Storm to fight Connie again, who now has 4 weapons, 4 shields, and fires a missile barrage after every 10 health is dealt. Then, followed by the Aetherlord, who has 90 health instead of the normal 30. After each 30 damage dealt, the Aetherlord will enter a rapid recharge state, where either weapons or shields will be repaired rapidly for a short duration. There is a special event that will occur if you run out of fuel in Sector 5, and this will spawn in the xCirrex special boss ship. They are generous to sell you fuel, otherwise you will fight them. They have 60 health, and their multi-shot weapons will fire 1 additional shot more than the other boss weapons. After each 20 health is dealt to this boss, 5 damage is dealt to the hull and weapons of the Irrbloss, with their shields and weapons being fully repaired. This encounter will only appear once per playthrough, and this will be the hardest battle in the game. There are 6 unique ending screens that you can get at the end of the game. 3 are if you lose, and 3 are if you win. The 3 losing screens are if the Irrbloss loses all hull points, all crew members are killed, or if you lose the fight to xCirrex in Sector 5. The 3 winning screens are regular ending for beating Aetherlord, true ending if both the Irrbloss and Aetherlord die at the same time, and if you win against xCirrex in Sector 5. Depending on how well you've done, kills, damage taken, ending, difficulty, and challenges will dictate your score. You can also see the progress in terms of health, scrap, and items gained or lost, as well as how long it took to complete. There's the general tips and tricks I have for version 2.2 of Fate of the Irrbloss. Hopefully this has helped you understand some of the game mechanics and give you that slight edge to win. As the game says, it is hard, but the more you play, the more you start to understand how to work through it. Something you can also do is add some variety or some personal challenges to your runs. This could be things like the 1 shield only challenge, where you can only protect the Irrbloss with 1 shield slot. The beam weapons only challenge, where you're only allowed to use the pike beams, hull beams, shield breaker, and the Void's Choir. There are leaderboards in xCirrex's Discord server that notate the fastest runs and the highest scores. There are a few exploits or glitches that can be done. I won't go into detail because this ruins the game. And because xCirrex has threatened to ban me from his game because of what I've done. There's nothing else from me. I put xCirrex's Discord and Twitter in the description, where you can post, discuss, and support all of his creations with the rest of the community. So from there, farewell and good luck.